we've got a good one today, team. We've got a very bloody good one. We are talking about tracking calories versus intermittent fasting. And I know a lot of you know that I'm team tracking calories, but I feel like I shouldn't be biased, okay? What I feel like I should do is give you guys a balanced viewpoint about what's going on. Best way I can do that is argue from both sides. Up first, round one, tracking calories. If it fits your macros, counting calories, tracking calories, food diary, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? Keeping track of your calories, numbers in, numbers out, is primarily the only way to reliably get results in terms of it's the most efficient, and everything else sort of stems from that, right? All that matters is if you want to lose weight and you're in an energy deficit, count your calories to get to that. Otherwise, it's just sort of guesswork. If you want the most efficient way to get from A to B, counting calories is the best way to do that. Now, we are going to talk about the ins and outs. So let's cover the pros of tracking calories. Number one, pro of tracking calories. You actually monitor what it is that you're eating. If you're eating a bunch of shit food, you can plainly see that more often than not, you're eating shit food. If you're eating really good food, you can see that you're eating good food. And a lot of people forget what good food they have and what crap food they have. And that's why typically they come to me with weight loss goals, is because they've eaten a lot of crap food that they haven't really been mindful of over the years. So what calorie counting does is allow you to be accountable to the food that you eat every day, and it's clear as day what you've eaten versus just kind of trying to remember. Number two, it can teach you about nutrition density and the quality of the food that you're eating. If you don't know how much protein, carbs, fats, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals are in the food that you're eating, this is a really good way of keeping track of that. So that's why if you've got any nutritional deficiencies, low in iron, whatever it might be, this is a really, really strong way to ensure that you get all the vitamins and minerals that you need in your diet. So that is why there's another pro for counting calories. Number three, you can be more mindful of healthier switches when it comes to mealtime. For example, if you normally eat pasta and for dinner, let's say bolognese, you can switch to zucchini noodles or a lower calorie option in order to still have dinner and still have some semblance of a satisfying dinner. Now, I'm not a zucchini noodle guy, but I know a lot of people really like zoodles. So kudos to you, but this is another reason why calorie counting is so effective, because it'll give you some strategies of being able to have the same meal, but in a less calorie dense way. Versus if you didn't monitor calories, you didn't track, you wouldn't know what's in it anyway. So you'd just be doing guesswork. Now the cons for counting calories. Calories and their labels can be misleading. If you don't have a lot of practice in this, you don't really understand weights, portion sizes, all that sort of stuff, counting calories and by the packages on the back can be quite misleading. Now, that's 1 in 10 things that can be really misleading. Typically you want to look at the 100 gram measure per 100 gram, not per serving. That's going to give you a much better understanding of what foods have what calories in there. But if I had to think about a downside for tracking calories, it would be that the nutritional information on the back can be quite misleading. Number two con for tracking calories. Calorie tracking apps can be quite confusing and misleading. So you might have pasta 10 different times from 10 different brands with 10 different calories. You might have 110 all the way up to 400 calories for the same exact thing. So it can be quite confusing, but I promise you that practice makes perfect. There is a belief that counting calories can lead to mind-based eating versus hunger-based eating. People argue that eating when you're hungry is a really good thing versus eating just because. I'd argue eating just because is a really good thing. We as human beings are heavily flawed. And sometimes we cannot be hungry all day, and then when it comes to dinner time, want to absolutely blast food. So we'll have anything that comes available to us. That's why I'm, again, not a big proponent of intermittent fasting. That's why some people will argue against calorie counting, because it makes you a bit more about the numbers than it does about the subjective feeling. I am not on team subjective feeling, I am on team numbers. So if you want to hold on to that argument, you can, but I just wanted to give you guys a few cons for counting calories. Now, bing, 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 bah. Number two, we are talking about intermittent fasting and the downsides for that. Let's get into it, all the pros and the downside. We are talking about intermittent fasting and the upsides and downsides of that way of eating. Let's get into it. What is intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting essentially is just skipping meals. It's based on the premise of having an eating window. So you have 4 hours in the day, 6, whatever, that you eat in that window, and that is it. You are not allowed to eat outside of that window. So essentially skip breakfast, right? So if you sleep for 8 hours a day and then you skip, 4-hour eating window or whatever, you might have a 12-hour eating window or 8-hour eating window. Some people like a 4-hour eating window. It is all up to you, but that is the basic premise of intermittent fasting, is that you fast for a set period of time every day, or you can do 5 days fasted, 2 days non-fasted on weekends. There's different orientations, but that's the primary concept, is that essentially you're not eating for part of the day. It's about it, not magical. The pros for intermittent fasting is it's a very basic rule set. Very easy to live your life like this. You eat between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. and you don't eat for the rest of it. Pretty simple to follow, right? If it's 3:59, you don't eat, but if it's 4:01, you eat. And if it's 7:59, you can eat, but if it's 8:01, you stop eating. Pretty simple to follow, and I think that's definitely a positive about it. The pro is that there's no need for tracking. However, I would argue that there's always a need for tracking when it comes to your dietary intake of food. That's ridiculous to think that there isn't, but you could argue that it's better because you don't have to be as accountable to your food choices. But I think that's fucking yourself in the long term, not having a solid understanding of your own food intake. Now, the cons of intermittent fasting. Right, there's a fair few in my eyes. I'm not a big proponent of it, so going to get a fairly warped sense of why it's good. Con of the intermittent fasting diet is the high dropout rate. A lot of research suggests that people who have attempted to it fall off the bandwagon at a ratio of like 2 to 1. I think for every two successful people, one person falls off, maybe even a little bit higher. 39% of people drop off when they've tried this diet. So I think based on that, it means it's not really sustainable. Sustainable for 60% of the population for a period of time, I don't think is particularly sustainable, but that's up for debate. Number 2 con is that everything isn't measured. There's no way of measuring the food that you're eating based on the rule set that they give you or what they want you to do within this diet, this way of eating. So I think it's very flawed in that sense because there's no checking on protein numbers for the day. There's no carbs, there's no micronutrients, fiber, anything like that. So it's really important to have those numbers nailed. And if you don't, you're leaving a lot of gains, a lot of recovery, a lot of mental wellness off the table. I think that's definitely a con, is that there's no accountability for the macronutrients or micronutrients of the food. You can just kind of eat whatever you want, whenever you feel like it. Another con, and this is a con that is shared with tracking calories, is that you can more or less eat what you want as long as it fits within that eating window or fits within your calories. Now, a lot of people are stupid and they like to abuse this. I like to follow the 80-20 principle. 80% of my calories come from whole food, 20% come from soul food. My primary soul food is ice cream sticks. Everyone is different, but that is my primary belief. But a lot of people will take that and run with it, that they can eat like, 2 bags of Allen snakes. As long as they're in a deficit, they'll lose weight, which is true, but it's not healthy for you whatsoever. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on tracking calories versus intermittent fasting. Tell me who you tell me who you thought won in the comments down below. Please follow me on Riz Fitness on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the social medias. If you like this video, and leave a comment down below for what video you think I should make next. See you guys on the next one. Cheers.